Hello, today I want to examine the ethics of terraforming. First of all, it's important to say that terraforming is unlikely to happen for at least 1,000 years, and we don't have the technology to do it at present, and probably won't for hundreds of years. The first set of arguments are about whether to terraform a planet like Mars, and they centre on who the stakeholders are. There are 4 stakeholders in this argument: humans, animals, the ecosystem, and rocks. So to start this with the human perspective, humans might want to terraform a planet for lots of reasons, many of them along the lines of adventure, exploration, gold fever, escape from a domineering government, and national chauvinism. If a new island appeared in the mid-Atlantic, it wouldn't be long before flags were planted and resources exploited. People live in some tremendously difficult places on Earth, such as Greenland, where temperatures can be minus 70 Celsius, that's minus 94 Fahrenheit, and the Sahara, where temperatures can exceed in the summer 50 Celsius or 122 Fahrenheit. So from a human perspective, terraforming is really hard, but there are lots of reasons why we might want to do it. The second stakeholder are the animals themselves. Although animals might be said to have rights, they don't have a right to spend vast amounts of money terraforming planets. If they're on the point of being made extinct on Earth, we could save them by moving them to Mars, or at least moving their germ cells. But would they have the big bank accounts to afford this? Certainly not. Even in 1,000 years' time, that's very unlikely. We could also ask about what animals that are already extinct might think as stakeholders. If it was possible to de-extinct them, bring them back from extinction and introduce them to a new ecosystem on another planet, would this be ethical? Examples might be the mammoth, which probably wouldn't survive on Earth today because there's just not enough grass tundra, and the Tasmanian tiger, the thylacine. Ecosystems are the next set of stakeholders. Even in the present day, ecosystems do have some degree of rights, but it tends to be tied up with the people that live there, trying to preserve their forests, their water supply and their food. Anyway, as soon as we moved animals or plants or other organisms to Mars, they would start to evolve new forms because the environment would be so different. The ecosystem that would exist on another planet 100 years after being planted there would be considerably different from the source ecosystem back on Earth. However, every plant, animal, fungus and microorganism endeavours to create the next generation of its own species. They try to colonise new environments and take advantage of opportunities as they arise. We would have to move them physically from Earth to another planet, but it would allow life to spread across our solar system. So although it would be us as humans making the decisions and moving things about, it would be in line with their natural behaviours to procreate themselves. Another point here is that if Mars hosts its own Martian, indigenous, native Martian life, then that ecosystem would have rights to a continued existence. However, there is a possibility that we won't know about it for some considerable period after we start terraforming. It may be after considerable warming has taken place that we actually find evidence for it. This links back to the warm and wait model for terraforming Mars. This suggests that alien life will only reveal itself from deep underneath the surface when temperatures have risen significantly, because in the present day, if it exists at all, it will be probably kilometres beneath the surface because it's so cold on the surface. There is also a severe risk here that we could destroy it by introducing life from Earth by mistake, which could outcompete it. There are these special places on Mars where liquid water is thought to exist on the surface, and if we contaminated those, microbes from Earth could make their way deep down and destroy the ecosystem we want to study and want to exploit. So Martian bacteria may use low temperature enzymes which we could use to make food in space. So they actually would be extremely valuable to us if we could discover a Martian ecosystem and Martian microbes. The last set of stakeholders are the rocks themselves. This argument suggests we shouldn't be doing any terraforming at all, as other planets, moons and asteroids have a right to be left alone. This is called intrinsic value, and it seems ridiculous to even think that rocks have rights. However, even on Earth they do, as we allocate rights to places because of their natural beauty, even in the absence of life. So, for example, we would be considerably upset if natural monuments such as the Grand Canyon were buried under billions of tons of trash or forested with commercial trees. Similar arguments would apply to other landforms such as the Matterhorn in the Alps in Europe, or to Table Mountain in South Africa, or Mount Everest in the Himalayas. In space, moons like Titan, with its unique hydrocarbon lakes, seas and rain, and Saturn with its rings have great value, even though they do not contain life forms. The next set of arguments are around human reasons for terraforming. The first of these is for human survival. Could we use Mars as a planet B where we could escape in the case of a nuclear war on Earth? The answer is definitely not. It's no planet B. It's a very, very hostile place. Neither is it a planet Z. It's just so outside what we can consider as somewhere we could live that it's almost impossible to consider it. It would be a lot easier to set up home in the Antarctic or on top of Mount Everest. Mars and most of the other places we might care to consider as terraforming targets in our solar system are incredibly hostile. They could easily kill all the colonists within an hour of their landing. It might allow humans to survive on its surface one day, but vast amounts of money and effort would need to be invested first. The second set of reasons for terraforming link into resources. So we might go to Mars to try and mine minerals. It's entirely possible that we could find valuable resources on its surface. It hasn't been mined like Earth has for the last 10,000 years, so it's very much virgin territory for mining. However, those resources are likely to be used on Mars rather than being exported because of the great cost of launching them off the surface into space through Mars's what they call gravity well. It would be considerably cheaper to mine asteroids and moons because the transport costs would be much lower with their lower gravities. The next set of reasons link around scientific knowledge. This is perhaps the most valid reason, the only real human reason for terraforming a planet. However, if the interval between exploration and the first attempts at real terraforming is long enough, there would be plenty of time, plenty of opportunity for scientific discovery. Additional to this, discoveries would be made during the terraforming process. Certainly, future biologists would like to know what plants were able to survive in the tough conditions of a new planet's surface, what bacteria would actually infect the soil, infect the regolith and make soil, what life forms from Earth could actually survive. And the chances are the ones we expect to survive don't, and the ones we don't expect to survive do. It's going to be a very unusual process. The next set of reasons for terraforming a planet are linked to adventure. People might like to terraform a new planet for lots of reasons, because it's there, because it's new and it's different, and because it would allow them to live their lives without interference of a country or government. But the cost is still enormous. There are lots of ideas about creating a Wild West on the surface of Mars so that people could be independent and do their own thing. But it's so hostile an environment that would be really tough. The last set of arguments link to spirituality. Some people might like to move to a new planet so that they could practice their religion without interference. It may be a new religion or a disenfranchised religion, and if enough of them wanted to move and they were able to find the money, they might be able to do it. Whether or not it's enough cash for the enormous costs involved in terraforming another planet is another matter. It's possible that if billions of people contributed, they might. But again, it's so far in the future, because we don't have the technology today, that it's almost impossible to imagine. Money, technology, time and power will determine if Mars or when Mars is terraformed. For the moment, we can look into the future and imagine it, but there are things that we can do today because we are still involved in what I regard as the research and development phase of a terraforming project, even though we are perhaps 1,000 years from actually getting it going properly. Thanks for listening. Bye.